And with me in the studio, I have Councilor Ernest. He's the councillor in eThekwini Municipality for Ward 27. If you can stay on the line, Willie, I'll just invite them to chat a little bit. And if you need to come in, don't be afraid to come in and hold these councillors to account. Councillor Ernest Smith, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for that, Yunus.
And Councillor Ernest is from Ward 27.
Assalamu alaikum to the listeners. Thanks for having us on again.
It's a pleasure.
I really enjoyed the last time we addressed this because we really started getting to the nitty-gritty of it. We welcome the interventions because, and as Tabani so rightly pointed out, we have problems. We have problems right from the lower tiers right up to the top. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but we do have pseudo-politicians playing, officials who are playing pseudo-political role here. Instead of being resident-orientated, they were making sure that the departments implement services which are for all of us. There is political interference. I'm not going to play with that, but the reality of it is these interventions have become beyond necessary because this infighting we're referring to, this cadre deployment issues that have come, and as Valiso rightly pointed out, the ANC is splitting in half. You have the ANC who wants to actually start making things work and join us and getting things done, as it were. But then you have people who are selfish and they don't have the best interests of the people at heart. And I think that's where the problems are. And that's why people out there also need to be mindful of the situation, because at the end of the day, you have so many acting positions. You have so many individuals who, and I'll use PRC as an example. The head is also suspended. PRC is what is essentially, so I'll simplify it for everybody, is what the trees, what we see. Electricity head also suspended. All right, that's one of the key life services to our city that ensures that our factories are running, our businesses are operational, that that we can still bake and cook and clean. And I think to tie in before, I don't want to take up another 15-20 minutes of it again, but in essence, nothing is being done to rectify this. There's nothing being done to say, guys, let's prioritize the people, regardless of political affiliation. But instead, we're taking the opposite approach and weaponizing these issues, and that's where these issues come in. And this is where the GNU becomes has to work. We haven't got an option anymore. But also, when you have politics at such a local level, which differs substantially from what the province is doing or what the national government is doing, that's when we have been calling and saying, guys, you cannot self-correct. You are compromised to the point where a simple thing of I've employed you to do a job, but because you're a comrade of mine, I can't do the job, or I can't crack the whip on you because you're going to report me through my political structures, and then there's going to be an internal fight. And I think that's where some of these issues are coming from. And the self-correction is what we've been calling for. Basic things like today. A pump goes down, there's no notice about it. The residents are left without water. It's a simple issue that becomes a major problem, and it boils down to people in this municipality not being able to self-correct. We need to ensure that we go out and voice our discontent. It's very simple. Now, and exactly what you said, I'm happy that we're talking about the roles and responsibilities, because essentially the politicians rely on the voter base. The voter base puts the politicians in. It is a reciprocal effect. However, at the end of the day, you have to be, as a politician, engaging with the people. You cannot ignore them. It's a simple fact. And like I said last week, I speak for myself now, and I'm sure Tabani would agree with me, we are not running away from engagements with the people on the ground. We are not difficult to face the hard questions. But in the same breath, as what we spoke about a little bit earlier, voters also, and I talk about voters, non-voters, people who are not interested in politics, have to realize that if you do not go out and vote, you are forfeiting your right to have a say in this country. It's as simple as that. It's not me preaching politics and say you must go vote for the DA of this. It's a simple thing. And how many voters to date, all right, potential voters, have I met who have said, yeah, well, I'm not interested in politics anymore because I don't feel it's going to make a change? Well, guess what? We just had a change, not even 5 months ago. How many people have come out and said, listen, that you'll never get rid of the ANC? They're at 40% odd now. So our responsibility as residents of people in this city, and I'm going to come to the stats quickly, all right? There are 3.9 million people who stay in eThekwini. All right. In 2 years' time, 30% of that current value is 15 years of age. We would have gone up by another couple of 100,000. But the reality of it is, we'll have people who are 30% who are 15 years old now, who probably haven't heard this, that next best thing. But the reality is, those are going to be new people entering the marketplace, is what we say. All right, that are going to hear, they stay with their moms, dads, hearing the political things. And the reality is, at this point, they are hearing, hey, we actually brought the ANC down. It's actually a little bit over their lifespan, because when revolutionary organizations come in, they actually have about 25 odd years, maybe to 30 in some countries. But the reality is, and exactly what Rama said, all right, eThekwini is a powerhouse in KZN. We carry, and I'm looking at eThekwini as a whole, 58% of the GDP of this province. All right? That, to quantify that, what is it? 468 billion. All right? And that's not me making the figures up. That's proudly displayed. But the reality is, and going back to that pertinent question you asked me earlier, has service delivery improved? You have incompetent officials, not all of them. I'm going to reiterate this point. It's not everybody across the board. All right. But you have pseudo politicians who are taking decisions based on you, me, and other people, and not considering the larger effect of what happens in this metro. And that is exactly why we don't see the roads getting tarred at the moment, because they let a contract lapse. You tell me, if this was Cape Town, and I'm so glad Willie mentioned Cape Town, you and knowing the SCM process and the 18-step things that it has to go, you would have an effective government if the person knows, listen, 24 months from now, this contract is going to lapse, or 18 months from now, guess what? For every month that goes by, there must be a step to say, once this contract expires, another one must continue. It's basic logic. But we've got people that exactly what, as Eunice, what you said, over the years we transitioned and that we needed that. But what we did not need was officials coming in and lining their pockets. It's as simple as that. And now the voters must make the decision where we need to go, and that is why the section 139 and 154, a lot of people don't know what that is. And voter education, no, scrap that. Resident education is important, because when we talk about service level agreements, all right, service level agreements are what we, ratepayers associations, councillors, the like, that's what we hold the municipality to its standard to. That hasn't been a conversation, and it makes officials very uncomfortable, because when you start talking, hey, within 24 hours, we should have seen a little bit of action here. People shouldn't be hanging around or not have water and that kind of thing. Electricity repairs, road repairs, that kind of thing. That is the stuff that people, that damages people's cars, costs them money. That is the stuff that makes their food go off in the fridge. That's the stuff when we can't bath and we have to go and find somewhere else to go and bath. But I'm a rate-paying resident. They are basically saying, no, we are tired, but something important, and it's something I must emphasize. We have to strike a balance between our politicians, and I mean the politicians that are actually working, not these blokes that are conned us with 10,000 promises about this, that, the next best thing, and saying that we're going to set up our own call center and with money that we don't know when we get from. But has it come to fruition? No. So the voters must also be diligent in the questions they ask, and this is why it ties in to the questions we vote. I mean, why would we have to ask? The reality of it is, ratepayers are residents. Ratepayers are people who stay here. Residents, not everyone who's a resident in the municipality is a ratepayer. Let me emphasize that point. But we have to strike a balance between what we have, our infrastructure in place, and those people that we're still trying to develop. And remember, all races are impacted by poverty. It's not a particular group. And I'm emphasizing that point because people will turn around and say, oh, but you're saying this race group or that. It's not. It strikes us all. So having said that, we need to unite as residents and ratepayers of this municipality and say, hold on, the next municipal election, where do we want our government to go? Because Willie is quite correct. It happened and I can use a case in point. We won Mgeni, we won Mgeni. It was not an overnight approach. Now you've suddenly got every municipal employee that's promising you as a politician. Okay, I'll tie up now. You as a politician, hey, we voted for you. We voted for you. But then your performance comes into effect. As it stands now, I'm not going to pinpoint which official it is, but we have an official from this area who manages a particular facility. They've just been appointed. They don't have an email. They don't have a computer. You tell me, everybody in the room, how do you expect service delivery to happen if we don't fully capacitate our people and we make sure that the necessary KPIs are installed and that we have discipline action enforced? Because comrades can't do that to comrades, unfortunately.
I'm going to throw the spanner in the works. Listening to your guys carefully.
Earlier on, I did think about this. Number one, whether we bring in an administrator, and I say good luck to that person as well, because we're dealing with eThekwini or any dysfunctional municipality. You've got to have guts. And you also have to make sure that you've got a solid bodyguards too, because there's obviously issues that we faced in the municipality where people do take each other out. But essentially how we are going to turn this around, all right, is that if we get an administrator in, they need to be strong. They need to be hard as steel. They also have to have a business-like mind. That means business acumen. They must approach eThekwini like running a business. There is no businessman anywhere in the world that operates a business to make a loss. All right. The other point is that they need a strong backbone, especially in implementing disciplinary measures. We spoke about having people here, having these blokes or ladies and gents, whoever it may be, and putting them one side as project executives and the like. Yes, that financially that can be the most sense. But at the end of the day, what needs to happen is that we need to do what is best for the residents. That is simply it. They must not be politically aligned, because the minute that you have got something politically aligned, it creates a problem. You start having a bias. I don't want somebody coming in and saying, hey, my bra, I'm going to give you this. No, we must do it for our people. And at the end of the day, when residents, wherever they may be, need to understand that when they take a vote, and I go back to this point, they need to understand that the ANC in this current climate has 120 odd seats, correct me if I'm wrong, 111? The ANC, no, it's 94 seats now. 94 seats, which they definitely outnumber us. So what we need to do is in this municipality, and the goal would be for the residents, because to share the power, all right? So that no matter who you are, that you can collectively hold each other to account. That's our first step where we need to go to. And that's what I would tell the residents. If you don't, if you don't want to support the ANC, but you also don't want to give the DA majority, that's one part of doing it. You need to balance the power in here to give political parties the ability to reprimand each other. That's what happens in other parts of the world. And that's what we need to do here. Because at the end of the day, if you don't give political parties the opportunity to be an effective opposition, and at the end of the day, we are going to be putting ourselves in a hole as eThekwini residents. And that's what residents need to understand. When we come around and we say vote for us or vote for whatever, it's not a case of saying we want to dominate you. It's a case of saying, give us enough power to be effective. Give us enough power to bring the change you're talking about. Push these people aside, work them out. Better yet, hold them to their KPIs and their job contracts. As they've got points in there that if your direct manager is not happy with your performance, you can be held under disciplinary measures. That is not happening simply because we've given too much power in the last election to one political party that has members and cadres all over, and they ignore the ratepayers. And when they come and say, listen, Mr. Mayor, we want to meet with you. Okay, how are we effectively balancing the haves and the have-nots? Because they're not balancing that equation. It is simple as that. So at the end of the day, if they don't learn to balance it, that's when at the next poll, we need to go there and say, sorry, ANC, we are taking this away from you because you do not have our interests at hand. You are not, and I'll use my analogy, Eunice, that I used in the last meeting. If you do not create a fertile ground to create economic investment, that your pipe replacement, which is not being done, if you do not create a fertile ground to make an effective crop, you are not going to get anything or have any profit. Instead, you're going to make a loss. So that is how we need to approach it. And that is what I want the listeners to please understand, that we need to go into the elections with the idea that we need to balance everybody out at this point.
Tabani, I want to bring you in to wrap up, but I'm just going to give you some